Welcome, Steph, to
Hi.
the Menopause Unplugged podcast.
How are you? Are you doing good?
I'm well, thank you. Yes, very excited. This is our first episode, so let's dive right in.
Great. I feel very honoured.
So, you, Steph, are obviously going through menopause.
Yep.
What stage of menopause are you in?
So I am currently in perimenopause at the moment. Saying that, I have the Marina coil. So I actually couldn't tell you the last time I had a bleed because, as you know, with coil, very fortunate to not have a bleed. So I don't actually know exactly what stage I'm at. I still feel on a monthly basis, I still feel the symptoms that I would have in a bleed. So I'm definitely still in peri, and I have been for a while now. So I'm 46.
Okie dokie. So, when did you realise that you were in perimenopause? When did it start? When did you notice?
Yeah, okay. So when I look back, about 37,
Hmm?
I remember going for blood tests, and around that time, I was having irregular bleeds. So when I say irregular, it was more frequent actually. It was happening every 2 weeks.
Right.
Um, and it was starting to get me down because it was just frustrating. There was a change to my cycle, which had been very, very regular.
Mhm.
I had gone to the GP about that really because it was getting me down. And at that point, they took bloods. And I remember when I went back, the GP saying to me, "Oh yeah, yeah, we've done your bloods and you're perimenopausal, so that just means you've not gone through the menopause yet, but it just means you're perimenopausal."
Right.
And that was it. And there was no like follow up. There was no options. There was no real explanation given as to what it was at all. But for me, I always kind of had a feeling it was going to happen really early because my mum and my grandma were 40
Right.
and it happened to them. And it's something that my mum was really open about and had spoken to me and made a point of telling me that that had happened to her because she said that her mum had done that with her. Now,
Amazing.
that's pretty incredible, I think, because my grandma, to give you like an idea, like my grandma was born in 1919, so that generation to have awareness of it,
Absolutely.
pretty good, and to obviously talk about it as well. So she was always very open about her own health things, and my mum has been and still is very, very open about some health issues that she's going through that is been difficult for her. So I always knew that this it was really likely going to happen to me.
Right.
But I suppose at the time, there had been a lot of, we were still on the tail end of the whole sort of press downing the HRT, and
Mhm.
um, we were kind of still going through that. And my mum had breast cancer at the time, so they just didn't talk to me about HRT. And I just kind of got on with it. I didn't connect. And then there were some real significant things that happened in my life or my um, that now looking back, because I have the knowledge, I am now able to pinpoint exactly what did happen to me.
Wow, that's amazing. So apart from obviously a change in your periods,
Mm.
what other menopausal symptoms have you experienced?
Yeah. Okay. So not long after the not long after the bloods and being told about the perimenopausal, I had gotten into running, and it was not something that I'd ever done before. I'd done a lot of dancing and things when I was younger,
Hmm?
gotten into running, I really just wanted to prove to myself that I could enter a race and do it. It was just kind of one of them, and
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. And then I started to get quite a bit of hip pain, and I thought it was just a running injury, as you would.
Yeah.
And it was pretty bad at certain points. It had gotten pretty painful to the point that I can remember like just getting out of the car, the movement of the hip movement of moving your leg from inside the car to the ground, that swivel action,
Yeah.
the really, really severe. So I was sent for scans, and at that point was told that yeah, there was wear and tear, and what they thought I was experiencing was arthritic pain, because they'd said to me that we think you've got arthritis, probably need to get a hip replacement in the next 5 to 10 years.
Wow.
I was like, oh no. And it's basically that was the end of the running.
Mhm.
I carried on exercising, but I obviously didn't run.
Yeah.
And then I got really, really severe anxiety. Um, I had suffered anxiety quite bad as a young child, but it hadn't really been an issue for me in 20s, 30s. Um, and all of a sudden, this came back really bad. And I had not long got divorced at that point. So I kind of put it down to big life changing event,
Yeah.
you know, normal to probably go through some anxiety around that time. Your whole upside down. Um, and I put it down to that. And it carried on, and it never really went away.
Mhm.
So I went to the GP again for that, and was given some medication to deal with that. And granted, it was a very, very mild dose,
Right.
but again, so we've therefore had the joint pain,
Mm.
the anxiety that's kind of came from nowhere, no link,
Right.
no mention that this, even though they already knew that I was peri.
Mhm.
And then I went on to have some real serious gastro issues, um, and back and forward for various scans, medication, went private, went to so many different people private. Honestly, I must have spent hundreds and hundreds of pounds trying to get to the bottom of the gastro issues.
Goodness.
And again, there was never any connection. And the only time any of these things have connected is through my own knowledge
Mhm.
of perimenopause, menopause, and I now understand. And it all links together because they all happened sequential after being told that I was perimenopausal. So that's been pretty interesting,
Yeah.
uh, and something that I'm really open about talking about, because I wouldn't want anyone else to go through that. And I'm years down the line and I don't have the problem with my hips.
Mhm.
They thought I was. I am absolutely not going anywhere for a hip replacement. It is not the same issue as what they originally thought. So thank I still have my original hip bone, so that's all good.
Did you notice then, Steph, that because obviously your hormones fluctuate month to month. So did you notice a change in even the severity of your symptoms month to month, or that one would kind of settle down and one would flare up? Did you experience anything like that?
Not, I don't think there was anything obvious like that. Um, there were certain points where my tolerance level to things would be pushed, I would say, and there were certain points where the anxiety was really, really bad.
Yeah.
Uh, but I think I just manage it better
Mm.
now. Um, there were certain points where it got particularly bad, um, which to be honest, was everything happens for a reason. I really believe that everything happens for a reason. And the anxiety really, really got bad, and my behaviours changed. And that's when I thought something else has happened here.
Yeah.
I was getting married, so this was in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lot going on at work and stuff like that. And I was really, really anxious. And a lot of the planning and stuff, like the wedding had been cancelled 3 times because of COVID, and the planning was being done with the uncertainty of COVID. So a lot of people, I think, were saying to me, "Oh no, it's because of that, Steph. It's because you've just had so much stress." So everyone was conditioning me to be telling me
Yeah.
I was under so much stress. And then I got married, and after the wedding, I felt really, really flat, and everybody was saying, "Oh, it's the post-wedding blues, that's what it is." And I'm like, "It's not. It's not that. I know myself. Like, I'm not one of these people who, like, builds themselves for one day in their life and then thinks, oh, well, that's over, so I've got nothing else." Like, I'm really upbeat and positive the majority of the time. And I was like, it's not that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I remember going to a big shopping centre with my kids, and I couldn't work out, and this sounds so ridiculous when I tell you this story. I couldn't work out how to get from the shopping centre to the level that my car was parked on.
Okay.
And I nearly burst into tears in the shopping centre because I felt so frustrated,
Mm.
and I was getting so angry, and the kids were just like, "What is going on?" And my kids are well, my daughter's nearly 21, so they're not little babies, so they were able to identify that something wasn't right.
Yeah.
And when we got home that night, I just burst into tears and I couldn't stop crying. I couldn't stop myself because I was frustrated with myself and I was trying to understand what the hell was going on. And I was so, like, anxious about upsetting them. It was just like a big, massive ball of upset and
Mm.
emotion for myself. But I've always been really open, and I think that's because of the relationship that my mum has had with me. So I just spoke to the kids and explained to them, and I was like, "This is what I think is happening. I think that it's my hormones, and I think that I'm going through the menopause."
Mm-hmm.
The next again week, I went to the GP, and I asked for help, and I got HRT at that point. Um, I just yeah, there's a couple of days. So, in answer to your question, because I've totally went off on one here, um, I can't pinpoint certain points in the month with mine. No, I know that some people can. For me, that tipping point is so embedded in my head that I'm just so glad that I was able to identify it.
Absolutely.
And my mum explains to me the time when she had the tipping point as well, and her mum spoke to her, and that's at that point, and said, "There's something not right."
Yeah.
Because she was behaving so out of character. My mum and I are both quite gentle, quite calm people, and my mum was really having a go at me. I think I was maybe like 15 or something.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember it. My mum, she said that she was totally shouting at me, but I don't remember it because I've obviously blocked it.
Sure.
But my grandma saying to my mum after it, "You've totally overreacted there. Like, calm down.
Mm.
What I think is happening to you."
Right.
So the three of us must have gone. through a very similar sort of tipping
Yeah.
point, but being so fortunate to identify that it wasn't right.
Absolutely. So you talked about the fact that you sat your kids down and said, you know what, I'm going through something here. I think it's, my hormones and so on. How, so I take it they were quite on board with what was going on, and listened and
Yeah.
offered to listen and to do anything that they could possibly to help things.
Yeah.
How did that affect the perimenopause affect your relationship with your partner then?
So I suppose I'm very lucky because he is the most calming person, and so easygoing. And for me, I'm so lucky because he is so interested and fascinated by the whole subject. So what we had done together was watch the Davina
Oh
program.
yeah.
So we watched it together, and that was his choice to do that. And the reason being was he said to me, I want to understand what this is, and I want to know so that I can support you when you go through this. And he when I get anxious or when I'm really uptight about something, he just knows how to deal with it. So he doesn't try to go into solution mode.
Yeah.
He just listens because I think he's just very aware that the thoughts that are very, very irrational at the point if I'm having, if I'm anxious,
Yeah.
the thoughts are not real, and he can't fix that. He can't jump in my head and turn it off, but what he can do is just listen to me
Absolutely.
and reassure me. But it was very, yeah, it was really good watching the documentary together. And subsequently, he has gone on to do loads of reading and looking into, the hormones, the impact they have. He looks at, like your glucose spikes, all that kind of stuff is stuff that he's interested, to the point that he's now like super interested in the whole male menopausal
Yes.
side of things as well,
Mm-hmm.
because I think this is something that we need to have awareness of as well, because it isn't, you know, the whole hormonal thing affects obviously everybody,
Yes.
but the female menopause is going to happen to every female, but it absolutely has an impact to every single person around you. So I think having that information is key. It's so important.
100%. I couldn't agree with you more. So you did say that when you went to your GP, you got given HRT straight.
Mm.
Well, lucky you. So
Yeah.
was your GP quite aware then, about the menopause and so on?
Yes. So my GP went to medical school with Dr. Louise Newton. So they are still friends to this day. Um, so she has an understanding of it
Mm-hmm.
to a certain point, I would say. Um, I was given some gel HRT at the time, um, and I didn't react very well with that.
Okay.
Um, and it made, or it seemed at the time, to make my symptoms a bit more exaggerated.
Mm-hmm.
Now, whether that's because my symptoms were at the peak and it hadn't settled into the system, I don't know. But a week after I was on it, things got pretty, I was just a bit all over the place. So the GP had spoken to me and she said, I think I'm listening to you. hearing how you're sort of feeling, I think we come off this and we just give this a break.
Right.
So I came off it, and then I revisited it maybe 4 or 5 months later and was given the patches and have never looked back.
Amazing. So, was that just a week you were on the gel before you got taken off it, or was that longer?
Week or 2 weeks maximum.
Okay.
Eh, so it wasn't long at all, and I know the gel can obviously go, it gets into your system quite quickly,
Yeah.
but I think the GP could sense my nervousness around how I was feeling, and yeah, we just had a break, and the break was the right thing. She did the right thing
Yes.
rather than asking me to persevere when I think in my heart of hearts I knew, I'm not so sure that this is the one for me.
Yes, absolutely. You just knew that it just wasn't settling well with.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Excellent. So, have you been on patches then ever since?
Mm. Yeah, so I've been on patches now for about 18 months. And yeah, they're great. Yeah, really good. Um, I felt good pretty quickly after being on them. Um, and I have no complaints, to be honest with you. Um, when my symptoms were really bad, and when I say my symptoms, when my anxiety and things like that, and I was just mentally feeling different,
Hmm.
I wasn't sleeping great either. And again, everybody was saying that'll be because of the wedding. And part of me was thinking, oh, yeah, it probably is. But I am so fortunate that I basically fall asleep at 10:30 or 10 o'clock, and I don't know anything until the alarm goes off at 6 o'clock the next again day. So I'm lucky. I get and I appreciate that this stage that I'm at just now, I'm sleeping super.
Excellent. No, it's really helpful, isn't it? Just to get a restful sleep.
Yep. Yep.
So many different things, not just your physical, but your mental health as well.
Yep. 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 No, it's great, and I feel the benefit of being on them.
Excellent. No, that's really, really good. And fortunate as well that even though you've just changed from the gel to the patches, that you've not had to, you know, um, really trial and error with your patches, like the intensity, the dosage, let's say. Because, with HRT in general, just not being a one size fits all,
Mhm.
prep like medication, it can take a while sometimes for women to get the right dosage.
That's right, yep. And I started on a lower dosage than I'm on now.
Mhm.
Eh, I went on a 25, level 25 patches at the very beginning, um, just for maybe like a month or so. And then because they were fine and there was no issues, um, and they put that up to 50, and that's been great.
Mhm.
Did have about 2 months, maybe, maybe not even as long ago as that. Yeah, about well, around that time, there was huge shortage of my patches on my
I
prescription,
see.
and I was given an alternative which apparently had the same ingredients in it, um, treatment in it,
Yeah.
and I felt really off for that time that I was on them, really off. And it wasn't until I got my own ones back and after taking my normal ones for a week
Mhm.
that clicked what had been going on. I couldn't understand why I felt so flat,
Right.
and I felt pretty anxious again. And I'm pretty sure that it was down to the fact that I was on a different brand and it might have just had a slightly different makeup in it. Um, but I didn't feel myself at all in that period.
Yeah, that's really important, isn't it, to know that, take a step back and say what has changed that
Mhm.
symptoms, worse, for instance. So it's really good that you recognised that quickly.
Yep. I know. It was just weird. It was quite off, but I just hope that I can get the ones that I'm taking going. I've got a stock of them now. Yeah, I just hope that they sort everything out and we don't go through that again, because I know nationwide that was a massive issue.
Huge. Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely.
Yep.
So aside from then obviously going on HRT, did you make any other significant changes to your lifestyle?
Yeah.
H
Yep.
so on.
So I've always kind of looked after myself in terms of like exercising or movement and things like that, but I was very sort of clear in my mind that I wanted to do something about like the strength training and looking after my
Yeah,
bones, because I was obviously aware of the impact of the brittle bones and potential osteoporosis, and because I had been told by the hospital that there was arthritis in my hip joints, that I actually, I don't know, I think it just gave me a real sort of passion for looking after my body and my mind, and understanding, well, do you know what? If my hormone levels are going to start depleting, and these are the things that are going to start to get impacted,
yeah,
I need to do everything that I can to look after my body, because this isn't our dress rehearsal, and this is it.
ab-
So I started working. I had been doing classes and various things, and going to the gym and what have you, but I thought I'm going to get a PT because I want to do some strength based training. I want to do weights. Um, that's the kind of area I want to move forward in, rather than just doing classes in the gym when I'm jumping about and it's not really the right thing for me. So I completely shifted the way that I was exercising. So I moved away from more cardio stuff and I moved more into strength training. So that was a positive step.
mhm,
Um, I am aware of my protein, so I try, and I went through a stage where I was like measuring and trying to hit certain macronutrient targets. I actually found that almost became a job in itself, which then created stress in the back of it. And I thought, no, it's just defeating the whole purpose here. So I now focus on at every meal
yeah,
protein, because I want to look after my bones and I want to look after my body. So I would say that I've improved my nutrition. I've just taken that up a notch.
yeah,
Um, and what I had started to notice was not working for me was alcohol.
yes,
So I had naturally just reduced my consumption of alcohol in the last few years, really. Um, and there's just a few times where I'd had maybe a night out or something on the
mm,
Saturday, and then I'd noticed on the Monday when I was going to work that I started to feel, so it wasn't like, because some people are like, oh, it's a 2 day hangover. And I'm like, no, it's not, because I've not even had a hangover. Like, I hadn't had enough to have a
yeah,
hangover. But like, it's not that. But felt like I felt like a 4 out of 10 or something. And I pretty much on average, I'm quite high up there in a scale of 10, how I feel on a daily basis.
mhm,
And I started to feel really, really low and a bit anxious sometimes. And this would last for like 3 days. And I thought, I this is weird, but I'd started to notice a pattern. So I'd know it didn't just happen once, because I was like, oh yeah, maybe I'm just having like an off week, or maybe it's time of the month. And I would say to one of the girls at work, so we used to follow like the same cycle, and I'm like, do you have your periods? And sometimes she's like, yeah, I do. And I was like, that's what it is. But then other times she's like, no, I don't. And I was like, okay, it's not that then.
Yeah.
So I realised, like, when I started looking back and reviewing it, I was like, it's that. It is totally that. And then I was away on a girls' weekend earlier this year. And I don't mean a girls' weekend like a big boozy weekend. It was like a girls' spa weekend. You're lucky if over the entire weekend I had consumed a whole bottle of wine over the whole weekend.
Mm-hmm.
My anxiety was through the roof. It was horrendous. And the following week, I felt awful and I just thought, that's it.
Yeah.
So I've never had a drink since. So I haven't had alcohol at all for 8 weeks.
Okay.
I, I feel so much better for it.
See, that's amazing that you can really see that it was the alcohol that was causing all of this
Mm-hmm.
just by eliminating it, taking it out of the picture for a
Yep.
while and just seeing how you go.
Totally. And I'm not saying, oh, that's it, I'm going sober forever and I'll never have another drink again, because do you know what? I might.
Yeah.
And I'll decide when I want to have one and if I want to have one. But what I do know is when I do and if I do, I'll only ever have a
Yeah.
couple, because I'm getting nothing out of it. So I've been on nights out when I've been sober now. I've been out and about, I've done various different things that would normally associate having a couple of drinks. I've not done it. And there's some really nice non-alcoholic drinks out there. And jumping in your car at the end of the night is just like the best thing ever. So who knows? I'm not putting any pressure on myself. If I want one, I'll have one. And if I don't, I won't.
Exactly.
But definitely at this point in my life, doesn't serve me.
No, that's it. And at least you know, like, if you do have a drink, that how you're going to deal with the aftermath,
Mm.
all the
So
all the symptoms and the the low energy and everything else that comes with it for days to come.
yep, yep,
Like,
yep. So that was, yeah. Those are some things that I've changed. And what I'm wanting to do next is to get really into yoga.
oh yeah, mm-hmm.
So I want to do that for my mind. I think there's so many benefits of that. Um, so that's another sort of thing that I want to factor in. And just in the last few months, my own mum's been diagnosed with Alzheimer's.
Oh gosh,
Is just awful. And it's something that my mum's mum, so my grandma, had that too.
right,
Um, and that's been really difficult, and heartbreaking. And another reason why all of this just means so much to me, because when my mum and my dad and I went to the appointment, um, the first thing that my dad said when we got all the information and we're taking it all in, and the guy's like, have you got questions? And my dad said, yeah, I do. I'm worried about my children. I'm worried about Steph, and I'm worried about my son. And obviously, I was there, and the GP was like, "How do you feel?" And I didn't want to go into too much detail in front of my mum,
yeah,
but um, I said, "No, I feel fine." I was like, "I'm taking HRT. This is one of the reasons I'm taking HRT, because I don't want to get this." And the GP was like, "Okay, yeah, I get that," but he didn't go into too much detail at all around it. But for me, that is another thing that I am now so focused on just doing all the right things that I can. And, I might have the gene, I don't know that.
yeah,
Um, but what I do know is I can reduce my chances of getting this.
100%. Yeah, anything preventative is going to be so beneficial.
Yep.
100%. So you're obviously quite stable in perimenopause at the moment,
Mm.
and that's amazing. Is there anything that you wish you had known before entering sort of perimenopause that you'd like to share with other women?
Everything. I wish I knew everything that I know. So I just, it's the whole picture, and I think that's the most important things for me.
Mhm.
Um, and it's everything that, it's you and I have been so fortunate to have learnt and been on such a wonderful experience and journey together in this year, and what we've learned. For me, it's the whole piecing it all together and looking at the lifestyle, the nutrition, the movement, and the mind. And it's not just HRT.
Yes.
For me, that is the decision that I've made, and it's something that I had researched and was comfortable with, and I could identify it was the right thing for me, and I've made the choice to do that. But what I am gifted to know is the benefit of what you
Yeah.
eat, what you do with your body, how you look after your body. Uh, and I think when you understand the depletion in the hormones and what that does to your body, doing all these things, you know, you can't you can't reverse stuff and you can't change
Yeah.
it. But if you do all of these things, they're going to make you feel good anyway.
Yes.
So that's that for me, it's that. And it's this whole concept around, you know, old people are only old people because they can't move. I don't want to be that
Yeah.
person. So I don't want to get into the cycle where you see people who are struggling to get out of the chair and it's because they've not moved
Mhm.
enough. So I want to be able to live my life to the fullest, to have the energy and the sort of drive to do that. Um, I hope that one day I become a grandma and that I can run around the park and look after the kids like my mum did for my kids. Um, and just be well. And I never met my husband till I was nearly turning 40. So I feel that for him and I to look after our bodies just might give us that chance of growing old together and doing things that we've missed because we didn't meet each other till later on in life. Um, so it's menopause is part of getting
Yeah.
older, and it's not an illness. And if I wish to share anything with anybody, it's just embrace it and look after yourself while you're going through it. And it's not a bad thing.
100%. Yeah.
It's not bad. It's just a change. And we've dealt with a million changes in our life and dealt with things that, had you been told that you were going to have to deal with them, you would probably think you couldn't do it. This is just something different that happens. It's your body changing and your body needing something different to what it's already had. And when we're running about in our 20s and 30s, we've got different energy levels because we're at a different stage in our life. And for some people, they've got those energy levels because they were meant to have children, they were meant to get pregnant, and they've got energy to look after their baby and things like that. But you've got energy at different stages of your life depending on where you are and what choices you've made.
Mhm.
As you get older, it doesn't mean that everything has to stop. And for me, I'm probably fitter now and healthier now than I've ever been, because I'm more conscious of doing the right things and looking after myself. So for me, it's just get people to learn about it and get people to understand about it and to speak to people about how they're feeling and get help. And, you know, if they want to get support and one-on-one support, then do it, because, yeah, this is it.
Absolutely. We only get one life, you know.
The same old dress rehearsal.
Absolutely. And, 100%. I think if anyone could take anything away from this interview is seek help, speak about it, because the earlier you do so, the earlier you can start feeling like yourself again,
Yep.
and adapt to this new phase of life. So that's been really, really insightful, Steph. So thank you.
Not at all. Thank you very much for bringing me onto your podcast, and especially being the first one.
Yeah.
And it's so nice to be able to talk to you about it. And yeah, I think we're both extremely passionate about a subject that is so important
Yes,
to everybody and not just women.
absolutely. Yeah. Well, thank you again, Steph, for joining me this evening.
You will.
And yeah, and we'll speak again soon.
Yeah. Take care. Thank you. Bye.